In today's video, I will be working at my cabin in the woods here in the Pacific Northwest, chainsaw milling some trees I had cut down recently. This definitely put my Stihl MS661 saw and Granberg Alaskan sawmill setup to its biggest test yet, as I cut the largest diameter logs that I can possibly cut with these tools. At the end of the video, I'll explain how these trees went from standing to laying on the ground thanks to my friend Matt, who specializes in this kind of timber falling, and why I was unfortunately unable to film any of that process. But for now, let's get right to the part where my work begins, and that's earlier this week inside my garage where I prepared my tools for milling. Before I start milling, I need to prepare my tools. Now, for those of you who saw my last video, I left the garage here in kind of a mess with everything spread out all over the place. But as I said in that video, I was going to be picking up right where I left off here, using all of these tools all over again. So first thing I need to do is sharpen my chainsaw. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Oh, here she comes. Or she'll chew you up. I forgot to flip the bar around last time I did my chainsaw milling, and I'm gonna try and get on the habit of doing that. Every time I use it, I flip it around from the way it was before so that I wear the bar out evenly. Unfortunately, since the time these trees were felled, it has rained. Now, we had one dry day yesterday, and today is going to be hot and sunny. The logs and the bark is a little bit wet, but I am not going to debark these trees because they were standing. I know there's no dirt in them, there's no gravel. It's not like I've been dragging them on the road like I did last week with those logs that I did with Owl. So while it probably would be beneficial for the keeping the chain sharp, that's just a lot of logs and a lot of bark that I would have to take off, and I'm just not going to do that. So as I do this type of milling more and more, I'm starting to develop my strategy, and so far this is what I've got. I start on the ends, so I get these threaded rods touching the log on each end, and I have these two in the middle just raised up as high as they can go. So I start by getting the ends where I want them nice and level, and then once that's done, thread the middle ones in until they just barely touch, and then I know I'm good. This log right here that I'm about to start with is a perfect example of the edge of what I'm capable of here. This rail system is 10 feet long, and I need enough to start and enough to end. And Matt cut these logs right just short of 9 feet, which is good. I'm glad he did that because it's always easier to cut off more than you need rather than be short. So thank you for doing that, Matt. But what that means is I have just enough of the rail sticking over here to get started with my cut, and then just enough over here for me to finish. And that might be the case for all these. I don't know, I've only measured this one, and I'm starting with this one, so we'll see how it goes. And right in the middle of this log, it measures about 21 inches, which is the maximum width. I think that is like 21 and a half between the two rails. So we'll see once I get there. I may have to trim off some edges on this log just for my saw to be able to slide along. I believe I have made all the proper preparations, and now I just need to set this up at 4.5 inches. That's what I determined. This thing is full of fuel and bar and chain oil, so that's good to go. man, time flies. I just made those 2 cuts and it's already past lunchtime. So this is what often happens up here. I gotta force stop myself and force feed myself. Because if it was up to me and my ambition, I would just keep going and get to the end of the day and realize I haven't eaten or drank any water or done any of that stuff. So gotta replenish myself. Yeah, it's definitely gonna take a long time to mill all those back there. There's a lot of logs. Successful lunch, got about a half a pound of ground beef in my belly. Now I'm gonna go out there and let's see, it's 1:30. When does it get dark? About 6:45, so 7 o'clock. 5.5 hours I've got to work out there. Let's do it. I am definitely pushing things to the limit here. This log is not dead. It is green, a lot more green than I thought. And that means that it's sappy, pitchy, whatever you want to say. Everything's getting kind of sticky. I don't even know that the chain was that dull. I just sharpened it anyways, but I think it's just like the chainsaw is working really hard. I'm taking it slow, trying to, you know, not let the chainsaw get too hot. I'm letting it cool down right now. Well, it was sitting here while I was sharpening the chain, so of course it's cooling down, but blowing it off too, just really trying to consider all factors here. This is a beautiful piece of wood, that's for sure, and these cuts that I'm getting are really nice and straight, so I'm happy with everything. This log is a workload for my setup here, and that means that every single one of these teeth, like when the log is within this space right here, as the whole time I'm going through, it's just eating. It's got so much to eat that the chainsaw is working really hard. So yep, it's going good though. So I'm not sure what that one just clocked at, but I timed it, and that's what it is in comparison to my first cut. When I first got this Alaskan sawmill set up and I was just using that rotten 2x6 deck board, that took me 3 minutes 28 seconds to make a cut. Last week when I was at Al's, I got it down to 2 minutes. That one went pretty quickly, but now this one being super wide as it could possibly be, being green, that's how long one cut took me. So there's a compare and contrast between 3 different cuts. All right, so it was 1:30, I believe, when I finished lunch, and now it's 3:40. If I wasn't filming all this and messing with the camera, I would probably shave off 10 minutes from that. So 1:30 to 3:30, that's 2 hours. It took me 2 hours to do all but the first 2 cuts. And I'm not sure how long the first 2 cuts took me to make. So I don't know. That's my attempt at, is people ask these questions all the time. How long did that take you? How long? There you go. There's some numbers for you. But look at that. That's super cool. 1 log into 2-inch lumber there. These cuts are pretty nice and straight. Unfortunately, when I threw this one on top of the pile, it cracked. But I'm kind of intentionally being aggressive with them, throwing them around, because I'd rather find out that there's a crack during that process than later on after I've milled the lumber. I mill a 2x4 and then it dries and there's a giant crack in the middle of it. At least now I know, okay, that was the weak spot. That's where it cracked when I threw that big slab on top of another slab. So now I know. But the rest of that is really solid, really heavy too. These smaller ones over here shouldn't take as long, but I still have some big ones. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 big ones. This 4th one is a lot shorter. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my gosh, 5 logs that are just about the same size. I got to do all that over again. So if that took me 2 hours plus, let's say 2.5 hours, that's 10 hours. Wow, that's unfortunate when I put it that way. 10 hours, maybe a little shorter now that I've learned a few things, but it's a long time. It's a lot of work. All right, day 2 of milling behind the cabin is going to start with me cutting off the tops of the 3 big logs that are left. This is a strategy that I've thought of employing, but I think I regret it, but I'll get into that later. And I meant to capture my phone while this time lapse was recording so you could see how long it took, but that didn't really work so well. All right, so the glare on the phone kind of messed up that shot, but it took 1 hour and 22 minutes to make all those first cuts, do some cleanup afterwards, and I'm about to sharpen the chainsaw over there. And then I'm gonna get to ripping all those logs into 2-inch slabs. Made it about halfway through that log there, and this is just a time lapse of me continuing to cut. You guys have seen me do this, so I don't know how many more times you need to see me make these cuts to kind of get the point of what's going on here. So I finished cutting this log right here, and then after that it was lunchtime, and surprise surprise, I'm having more ground beef tacos. There's seems to be a theme going on here, a pattern. Very shocking to the regular viewers that I would be having this meal again, but on the bright side, it is quick, it is easy, it is made with real food, as real as I can get from the grocery store. Very simple ingredients, and it fills me up and makes me feel good. After lunch, I went back outside, and it was finally time to refill my 1-gallon gas can that I use for mixed fuel for my chainsaw. And I just use these little bottles that you get from the chainsaw shop. The ratio is one of those little silver bottles to 1 gallon of gas. I'm not sure if it's 32 to 1, 50 to 1. I don't know the ratio. It's just one of those to 1 gallon, and 1 gallon of gas has gotten me through everything that I did at Owl's plus what I've done so far back here. That's roughly 5 logs that are around 20 inches in diameter. If I just chainsaw mill and that's all I do, and I use 1 gallon of gas, that's the amount of work that I can achieve on 1 gallon of gas. And I spent the rest of the evening milling 1 more log. After finishing those cuts, I put everything away again, and I've been doing that every night. Despite the fact that it's not raining, I just don't like the idea of leaving all my stuff outside. And then there is morning dew in the morning, so all my tools will just have that layer of wetness on them, and I just don't like that. So every night I've been putting my tools back in the garage and using the air compressor to blow them off, so the next day everything's clean, it's all ready to go. And I finished my other half of ground beef for dinner, so pretty much the same thing, but it looks like I added some peaches, apple. I added some variety here for dinner, spiced it up a little bit. And then the next morning, which is this morning, I went back out there, and the idea was to roll those logs, move them around, because I started to realize I am not going to be able to mill all these this week. It's just not going to happen. So what I would like to do is get all of them moved and hopefully off the ground. So I rolled a few of the bigger ones that I already made the first cuts of, and now we're back to that point. I kind of wish I wouldn't have made those first cuts. Now I have one like cut where it's like exposed, which is like if it does rain or if these sit out all winter, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe these might sit all winter long and under like snow and rain. So I flipped that cut side down, face down, and I would like to, if it ends up like starting to pour down rain, I'm going to get some tarps and really like spend more time rolling all these in one area and covering them with tarps. But after rolling, I think I got 2 logs over there. I was like, yeah, this is just like way too much. This is back-breaking, and I don't know what's about to happen. Like, the weather looks good for the next couple weeks, so probably just gonna leave them on the ground for now. But the idea was like, oh, I'm gonna roll all these and like stack them up off the ground and make everything look really pretty. It won't take that long. It'll be like a couple hours. I started doing it and I was like, okay, never mind. And that leads me to where I am right now. So the plan for tomorrow is to use my sawhorses. It is the next morning, and whatever I was about to say is no longer relevant because all of those plans have changed. Now, at the very beginning of this video, I said I was going to clarify how those trees behind the cabin got cut down. I didn't get any footage of that. For the last couple of years, I've been meaning to cut down those trees because they are dead, and I was afraid that they were going to become more dead and then fall on my cabin, fall on my garage, fall on my neighbor's cabin, and I didn't want that to happen. So I needed to hire a professional arborist who knows what they're doing, who has the ability to climb a tree and cut it down strategically to avoid buildings, structures, all that stuff. And what I first wanted to do was reach out to my friend Geronimo, who installed my Starlink up there in that tree. And I did reach out to him, but unfortunately it took several days for him to get back to me. So I left him a voicemail, text message, and I got a hold of another friend of mine, Matt. So Matt got back to me quicker, and I scheduled Matt to come out, give me a quote, and do all that stuff. And then Geronimo got back to me. I was like, oh, dang. But he's doing good. He just didn't get back to me because he was busy. So that's a good thing. I'm glad that he's doing well. His business is doing well. Man.
You had it. You had a new sky.
You are amazing, man. So I got Matt to come out, and the plan was for me to film him doing the whole thing, climbing the tree, cutting it down. I was going to make a whole video about that. That was going to be my video 2 weeks ago. But because of conflict of schedule, he got busy at other people's cabins. It took longer than expected, and then he had to make it to his kid's baseball game that same night or the next day or something like that. So I was like, hey man, don't worry about it. Your kid's baseball game is more important. So just come out, do the work. Unfortunately, I won't be able to film any of it, but I really need to get these trees taken down. So that's what he did. So let's jump to footage that I recorded before Matt arrived. So I'm here at the cabin before Matt arrives. You could probably actually hear him in the background. He's working close by. But I wanted to show you guys the trees before he gets here and chops them down. So here we are behind my cabin here. There's the woodshed over there, and this tree is coming out. It's pretty dead. Here's a little bit different vantage point on this one. You can see how dead it is at the top there. So that's that one. And as we work our way over here, this one's very, very dead. There's no top to that. It's just really dead. And then this bigger one right here is between Joe and Carol and my cabin. And that one's got the most amount of life in it, I think. It's still got some green on some of the branches, but as you look towards the top is pretty dead, so I think it's ready to go. See, when you compare it to the tree that my Starlink is in, it's looking pretty bad there in comparison. There's a little bit different angle. There's the Starlink tree. There's the Starlink up there, and then this is the bigger tree right here that's coming out. That one right there. So those are all the trees behind the cabin. Now as we go towards the front, around this corner, here's the woodshed. This other tree is right over here, and this is between Jason and Patty's and my garage. It kind of runs right down the line. So there's the woodshed, there's my garage, here's Jason and Patty's, and then this is the other tree that's got to come out here. So there's the back of my cabin, there's my propane tank, generator box exhaust coming out of the garage, and then this tree is right here. Big tall guy. Yep. All right, now I'm back about a week later since these trees have been fallen, and here is what it looks like behind the cabin. There's my logs that I'm going to be milling up. Matt and his crew did an awesome job of falling them safely and removing all of the branches, dragging them up to the front of the cabin, and then they have a wood chipper that they use to chip all the branches, and then they cleaned everything up really well. 1 stump, 2 stumps, 3 stumps, and there's all the logs. And now there's the garage, there's my cabin, there's the woodshed. Here's the other tree that I had him cut down that's between my neighbors and my cabin. This is Jason and Patty's place, and he decided that he wasn't going to be able to cut them into longer logs that I could use to mill for lumber, unfortunately, just because of the logistics and safety reasons and pipes that are in the ground. There's just a bunch of factors that were at play. So this is just all going to be firewood, and a lot of it was pretty soft anyways. I mean, the core is pretty good on a lot of them, but I don't know how good it would have been to mill. And I think Jason and I are gonna go 50-50 on those rounds. So we're gonna get a bunch of firewood out of it. And voila, now I am back in the present day, and all those rounds that were here, they are gone. Jason and Patty brought their hydraulic log splitter. They chopped all that up, and then they gave me this big pile right here. So a big thank you to my neighbors, Jason and Patty, for splitting this up for me, and actually splitting it up for neighbor Al. That's where I'm going to take it right now, because as you can see, I have way more firewood than I need. Just the firewood that's in the woodshed is enough to last me all winter. most likely, and then I have this additional stuff under the tarp. If I was gonna keep this, I would just have to get an additional tarp and just leave it in a pile here and cover it. I just talked to Al and he said he's good. He went up and got some more in his truck, but I'm gonna bring it to him anyways because he'll say something like, I don't need it, don't worry about it, but I'm gonna bring him this firewood and he's gonna take it and he's gonna like it.
Yeah, look at what he brought us. We're gonna be warm.
So Al's just gonna stack it right next to his wood stove, and this is gonna be the next stuff that he burns, I think.
Yep.
It's ready to go.
Not in here.
Good stack there. I made it to Home Depot and I'm gonna go ahead and eat my Chipotle chicken bowl here and then go inside and buy some much needed supplies. First thing I got from Home Depot was an extension cord for my skill saw. Next thing was some new PPE. I got some new safety glasses because mine are all scratched up. Got some earplugs, and this safety vest is not relevant to this project, but in the future when I'm getting roadside firewood, everybody tells me I need one of these, so I finally got one. I got a new blade for my skill saw, but this was probably the most important thing that I got today. This is a respirator that I can wear. And some filters that go on it, because after doing all that milling back there, I was breathing in all the gas fumes and a lot of sawdust. And as much as I really hate wearing all this gear and stuff, I think this is going to help big time in the future. This actually like seals, this rubber seals around my face. It's a lot better than just breathing in all that stuff, or I hope it will be, because after doing all that milling back there, my head didn't feel right. I was like dizzy. It just wasn't good. So I got one of these, and I would really like to use all that stuff that I just got tonight and tomorrow, but I'm running out of time and I need to finish editing this video and release it. So this is the extent of what I'm going to accomplish in today's video. I got those 3 milled and I got these started over here. The starter cuts have been made. So in a future video, I'm gonna set everything up, my skill saw and generator, extension cord, and I'll have my new mask and all that stuff, and I'm gonna go to town completing the milling of that and then ripping all those slabs into dimensional lumber like I have been the last few weeks-ish. It depends on how wide they are. I'll measure them, and if they're 12 inches, then I will cut 3 2x4s. Yeah, 3 2x4s out of a 12-inch board. But if they're like 10 inches, 1 2x6 and 1 2x4. So basically cut off one side that's straight, and then from there determine, okay, how many straight flat pieces of lumber can I get out of this? And the ultimate goal, what I'm trying to do, is just make as much dimensional lumber as possible, 2x4s and 2x6s, because I'm going to use these for framing. I have several ideas of what I can frame, but for those of you who aren't familiar with framing, like here's some pictures of my tiny house when I built it. I built it out of 2x4s. It was 2x4 framed structure. And so all these boards that I'm hoping to make, this is what you can end up doing with them, is something like this, framing a building. Who knows? Maybe like I might not use this lumber for several years. I'll just let it sit, dry. I'll strap it down so it's nice and tight and it doesn't get bowed. I'll take care of it, but I'll just have it. And it's never a bad idea to have a big bundle of framing material. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just getting material to build something in the future. That's why I'm like rubbing my hands together. This is so exciting for me to be creating my own lumber that's thicker than what you can buy in the store. And I'm making it myself. I don't have to go out and buy it. Of course, I'm spending money on gas, and I had to buy the chainsaw, I had to buy the mill. But now that I'm doing this, it's going to pay for itself down the road. So I know everybody wants me to like do the math, like how much did your chainsaw cost? How much did the mill cost? How long will it take you to make that money back? I don't know. I don't care about that right now. Once I mill, once I get a big bundle of lumber, then I'll sit down and be like, okay, how much would this cost me to buy? And then I still have the receipt over there from all the stuff that I bought to do this. So I'll be like, have I made my money back yet? I will do that someday, hopefully soon. But so that's in the plans at some point. All right, everybody, it is time to wrap up this video. It is very late at night and I need to finish this. But good news, it is currently 73 degrees inside the cabin. Very, very warm. It's been a long, hot summer, so the outdoor conditions have been comfortably warm for a long time, and there has been no need to start a fire for several months. But right now I have a really hot, warm fire going. I'm finally able to utilize all of the firewood that I gathered over this summer. So it is nice and cozy in here. I am making preparations for the arrival of the lovely Julia. I thought she was going to be here tonight, but she's going to be here tomorrow and throughout the weekend. So really looking forward to making some delicious meals and hanging out with her. One last thing I wanted to mention before I go is that my friend Matt, who cut down the trees back there, if his contact information is in the description of this video, that means he got back to me after I sent him a message and asked if I could share his contact information for anybody who is in the Portland, Oregon metropolitan area and they need some tree service. His contact information, if it's there, then he's okay with me sharing that information. If it's not, then he's not okay with that, or he's just too busy, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case because he is a very busy man. So that's that, and I could say a lot more, but I've already talked about a lot of the stuff in previous videos, like why I'm using a chainsaw mill instead of a bandsaw mill and why I do the things that I do. So in the next video, I'll be ripping those slabs into lumber and stacking and stickering them in the woodshed. At least that's the plan. We'll see what happens. Life is crazy. As you can see in this video, I was all over the place. This video was like 5 different things, and I just put it all together in what you just saw. So hopefully it wasn't, I mean, this was like a bouncy ball inside of a place that bouncy balls go. I don't know. All right, I need to stop talking. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.